Injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice.
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
On The Breakfast, we take a look at the bill seeking to stop landlords in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, from demanding yearly advance rent payment from tenants. That has also passed a second reading in the Senate. The bill is sponsored by Senator Smart Adeyemi.
Also, The Breakfast this morning, the past 2 years have witnessed a new wave of coup d'etats in Africa, with the conflict that is brewing in the West African nation of Guinea-Bissau, where the government has now claimed that it has survived a coup attempt. We'll take a look at the recent surge in the militarization of politics in Africa.
Don't forget, we'll also look through the papers this morning, analyzing the big stories of the day.
Welcome to The Breakfast. I'm Kofi Bartels.
And I am Messi Bopo. It's good to have you join us this beautiful Wednesday morning, and it feels really great to be back on your screen.
Yes, indeed. I promise this will be a very interesting day, Mercy. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Even I said good morning before we came on set. You're looking very, very spoofy.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's an interesting day. A lot to talk about. Especially, I can't wait for the conversation on the rise of militarism or militarization of politics, like we put it in West Africa. It's worrying. It's worrying, and something needs to be done. So we will get to understand, the details and the background of what's happening with our guest. But let's get things running with a trending story segment. I love the trending story segment. Yesterday, someone got tweeting on 2023 politics after a long time, and that was the former governor of Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode. How Ambode was sent packing from Government House, permit my use of the term, is well documented. Permit my words, it's well documented. But this is what he put out yesterday. Sort of a cryptic tweet, some will call it. He says, after all we've been through, God has been faithful. Thank you for the overwhelming endorsement of our modest contributions to the growth of Lagos State. I mean, this has got people analyzing. It can only get better for Lagos and indeed Nigeria. But he started by saying, he also went on to say, the youth are coming. The youth are coming. The power is in their hands. Go get your PVC, permanent voter cards, ready. Your future is now. Now, when a former governor who did only one term in Lagos State puts up such a tweet, everyone is going to start analyzing. What's he saying? What's happening? Is he coming back?
So I have actually seen a lot of reactions as regards the post by the former governor Akinwumi Ambode, and some people are saying, "Oh, you don't just go away. You have been in asylum. You haven't really been anywhere." And really, there's been a lot of jest and joke about it. But let's even look at the real message, because sometimes we don't pay attention to the real message. The real message here is, let's forget about the messenger. At some point, sometimes you need to ignore whoever is sending the message.
You're saying the real message, right?
Yeah, let's look at the content. That's it.
Of the tweet.
So, of the message,
okay,
of course, which is the tweet now.
Please
but let's not also pay
saying.
attention, because I think a lot of what people did was yesterday, pay attention to the messenger and the kind of message that was put out. The messenger,
People are looking
his
at
experiences, who sent the message, his antecedents, and all of
see.
that. That's not the
Okay.
case. The case
Okay.
here is that youths are coming in,
Okay.
are coming back. But to be very, why do I feel like that's some kind of sarcasm coming from you? But whatever it is, though, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that the message is very important. Over time, we have been described as very docile people. We have been described as people that are not very active. Generally, the entire, the country, Nigerians are not very, but really you want to agree with me that there's a lot of change. People are waking up and getting involved in the activities that's going on in the country, governance, political issues, whether or not they have been elected to represent.
On Twitter, right?
No, not necessarily on Twitter, because you can't also describe the hashtag #EndSARS protest, which is big as well. So you honestly see that youths have decided, to move away from what it is. We know that, for me, I would not want to limit it to youth. I would say Nigerians need to wake up and be part of the system, because when you look at the entire country, 211 million people according to the United Nations, it's not just the population of, according to ECHOS, you're looking at 15 to 18 to about 35, or the United Nations 15 to 24.
So you're saying, look at the message.
Yeah, let's look at
What's
the message.
The message, Mercy?
The message is that...
Mercy, we cannot look at this tweet
can you allow me to finish?
without looking at the messenger.
Okay, wait, can I finish my thoughts?
To land. You've
can
been
you allow
moving
me?
over,
I'm moving, allow me to...
Ikeja Airport, you've not landed.
Yeah, sometimes you could have weather issues, so allow me just go around it. Why? So the point here is, this is what it is. Nigerians have not been very, very involved in politics and governance issue. It's a good thing that we're seeing a change. That's number one. Okay. And some people will say that that's not commendable. We need to get involved. And one of it, what he has said, you would actually see that the biggest in the history so far, I don't know, I would like to be corrected. Hashtag #EndSARS saw a lot of Nigerians, come out, especially the youth. Come out.
Now you've landed.
Kofi, wait, let me land entirely. Wait.
Okay, you're about
coming out, to actually say, hey, we are dissatisfied with, it's a policy of governance and the activities, and police brutality is a major issue, whether we want to agree with it or not. And we have seen the youths making a statement. Also, you could also see prior to this time, the issue of not too young to run bill, and amongst other issues, which is very commendable. So yes, the youths are waking up, the youths are coming in, but we want Nigerians to come up and come in.
I'll be like how we do in Nigeria. Before the plane stops, we stand up. So I'm standing up. You say we should not look at the messenger.
So I said I would look at the message and not the messenger.
Okay, you would look at the message and not the messenger. Good. But we cannot not look at the messenger. The message
No, you cannot look at the message.
No. The message is getting, is trending. This message of the youth are coming, go get your PVC, is trending on account of the messenger. And the message would not have trended. We won't be talking about it here.
So what's your point?
Not for the messenger.
So what's your point?
So the point of this sermon of mine this morning is that the messenger is very important. As important, and even more important than the message in a way. And so we cannot say, we look at the message, not the messenger. We're looking at it. It's already been looked at. Now, this for me, I get your point, okay? But this for me is, people are saying, is he intending to come back as governor? Is this because he
can't come back.
He can. Why can't he?
No, he can't come back.
Why can't he?
Oh, you already know that.
No, tell me why can't he?
No, he can't come back. I don't think that I'm not a spokesperson for him. I'm not holding brief for him.
Are you INEC?
But I'm saying that I'm not INEC. I'm just saying that I'm not holding.
No,
this is what I'm saying now, Kofi. I'm just saying that let's look at it. Yeah. Sometimes I think that it's okay for us to drop all of the sentiment and the issues that we have and just look at the issues the way they are. I'm not holding brief for him, but I don't think that he has. Maybe he's making any plans to come back. Okay, whether or not he wants to come back is a different issue entirely.
So this is what I was saying, yeah? And people have been having a conversation around the governorship of Lagos State in the next few years, in the next election, sorry. And because of the recent statement by the current governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, he said last week that he was going to consult Lagosians to decide, before he decides whether to run for office or not. And that got people speaking, I even asked a question online, what do you do when he consults you? So I got people speaking. And then there were conversations around, well, what has Ambode done? And then, Sanwo-Olu done. And then some people started mentioning Ambode, that Ambode did A, B, C, D, E, and they're comparing it with what Sanwo-Olu did. You know, they were doing a comparison. So because of what Sanwo-Olu said, that I will consult with Lagosians before deciding whether to come back, Ambode's name came back into the conversation of the governorship of Lagos State. You know, people started talking about it. So the suspicion, people are suspecting or asking, is he coming back? Is he going to make a second run? Now, he can. The reason he can is because the Nigerian constitution affords him the right to do so. He's a one-term governor. It means he can run for a second term. After a second term, he's done. So that's why he can. So you can understand why people are suspicious, and there's a lot of rumor. If he had already concluded his 8 years, right, before leaving Lausa government house, there won't be any fuss about this tweet. I can guarantee you. The reason why there is fuss about this tweet is that Sanwo-Olu may not be the most popular governor right now in Lagos State because of his role, or alleged role, let me say, perceived role, better put, in the whole NSAS thing. So that has not cast him in light of the public, most people, as popular. And also, you know, the performances in certain areas, you know, has brought up the debate, who was better, Ambode or Sanwo-Olu.
So this is what I think now. You actually wanted me to get to that point, so I'm here already. Now, this is what it is. Looking at the comments, and that's why I said, for me, it's my, you know, decision, and of course I'm entitled to think about what I want to think. The focus here, for me, should be about the content of the message and not the messenger, in the sense that we understand the politics that have actually played, you know, things that have actually happened over time, especially with Ambode, where he lost the elections, I mean, the second term bid and all of that, and not getting the support. Originally, you would have some quotas saying he didn't have the support for the structures to come in, but you have Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu saying, we support him. He supported him, that's why he was governor at the time. And that's what these quotas are saying. And then some people are saying, hey, we want to see your tweet. It feels like this tweet is actually to shade. You have your boss. You can't take out the fact that he supported you to be governor, whether it's for one term or not. You need to give him the support. Of course, it's at the time where he has declared his intention to become president, especially to the president, but not to Nigerians. I mean, he's yet to declare his intention to Nigerians. That's what it is. So people are coming from that premise. And that's why I'm saying, let's not get involved with you know, all of that, but just pay attention to the message. Youths are coming out, youths are getting to grab power, what exactly it is. And I think the youths are, you know, they're trying, we're doing well, Nigerians are really trying, we're moving away from being docile, and we're getting involved in the politics and the issue of governance. And one of it you would see is the hashtag NSAS, hashtag NSAS, where a lot of people express their, you know, their grievances and how they feel about police brutality in Nigeria.
But then again, you know, all of this is in the realm of speculation. It might just means some other
hashtag
thing.
NSAS is not in the realm of speculation.
No, I'm talking about the governor's statement. But we have to move on. Let's see what happens, you know. We might just be reading him wrong. But another, you know, thing that caught our attention was the Senate passing a bill for second reading, rather, a bill to regulate the way rental system is operated in Abuja. That's the Federal Capital Territory. So this is the Senate passing for second reading. Second reading. You know, bill has to go through the first reading, second reading, and so on and so forth. And people have been talking about this whole idea of paying monthly rent. You know, it was, I first heard about it in Lagos State when the idea was put forth. I think something was passed or is being worked on in Lagos State. But this is quite an interesting one to see how it can work. Such a model can work in the FCT, which has one of the highest costs in terms of rent, you know, in Nigeria. I once had one of my landlords in the times past, you know, telling the security man, the Megad we had, because he was being funny, he was not doing his job well. You know these Megad houses, this small one, you know, that you have at the gate. He called him and said, "Oh boy, come here. You have to behave yourself. I hope you know that this your room in Abuja The rent for this room is 700,000 naira. And we burst into laughter. So I haven't forgotten that episode. Rent in Abuja is expensive. It's quite expensive. And if you want to make a move to Abuja for work, you have to factor that in. Personally, I've had to reject job offers because I factored in the cost of rent in Abuja, and I saw that my salary you don't go reach anywhere. So I said, it's no, thank you, but no thanks.
No, but this is not the first time we've had this conversation. I'm sure I had this conversation with Justin Kadunye right here on this platform. And we talked about the fact that, at the time, the Lagos State government, that was last year, towards December, had intentions of saying, we're working towards ensuring that residents in Lagos pay their rent monthly. And which I think that, fantastic, it's a brilliant idea. But for me, the major concern is, how do you explain, because some people are salary earners. A lot of people work with organizations, parastatals, and what have you, including government. And you have the fact that salaries are being owed, you can't take that away. So what happens if I'm supposed to pay my rent the next month and I don't have, my salary hasn't come because my previous salary, I probably had used it, I'm expecting that it will come on a certain date and it doesn't come. So what happens? So I just think that a lot of people will be slipping on, under the bridges and what have you. People would just be stranded. As brilliant as that sounds, we know we're actually emulating, because this didn't come originally from us. We've seen other developed climes practice this, and then we're trying to emulate. But we need to also understand that these countries have gone ahead of us. There are certain things that they have put in place to ensure
what
that
are you saying?
This can happen.
That we shouldn't consider this?
I don't know. What do you think? I'm thinking that if, for instance, a lot of people who pay, so let's assume that you're supposed to pay your rent the next month, and you get to the next month and you haven't been paid your salary, and your salary is your major source of income, what happens? You're going to be thrown out, because the landlord probably may not have, the patience. So the reason I would say that for the monthly, I'm also hoping that we can have that negotiations where this landlord take it easy. Is that you have a time where people can plan.
Yes,
you can put out monies together, and then you don't have to worry about paying rent monthly.
You have a
system.
Fantastic point. Smarter Adeyemi is that senator who came out, that viral video where he was shouting in the Senate. He was basically almost at the point of tears. I think he shed a tear or two. The Nigerians are suffering. The country is hard. Nigerians are dying. Remember that video? So he's cast himself as a sort of a Robin Hood. No, not Robin Hood, because he's not taking anything from anyone. But sort of like a defender of the people, a defender of popular causes, defender of the people's rights. I hope our viewers remember that video of Smart Adeyemi. So what he said in his lead debate, is that the bill is meant to cushion the effect of the outrageous, what they call the outrageous rents on properties on residents of the nation's capital. Now, thank you, Smart Adeyemi. He said many properties in Abuja were empty because of the outrageous rents placed on them. Now, thank you, Smart Adeyemi. But I have a problem. The same way I felt when I heard the Lagos State government was working on something like that too. We have market dynamics. Government doesn't control its market. And these agents, I don't know what I'd call them. I would have called them greedy, but I can't call them greedy because that won't be a nice word. I'll look for another word. But these agents are very ambitious. I think the agencies or the agents, so-called agents, real estate agents, have pushed the market up, the prices up. I think it's better for the government to wait, and the market would naturally come crashing down. Let those houses remain empty. So should there be monthly? Let's know your stand. Where do you stand in all of this? I'm saying monthly rental will even push the prices further up. Monthly rental will even push the prices further up, because a landlord who was used to getting, maybe he says he's charging 1 million naira, maybe for a one bedroom, for instance, somewhere not in the maybe Gusape or somewhere like that, not at Sokoro or Wuse or maybe Gusape, for instance, and you have to now break that into 12. All right, that's going to be less than 100,000 naira a month. That's going to be less than 100,000 naira a month. Will he want to be getting that amount of money? That's number one. Number two, this yearly rental thing forces people to plan, to prepare, and have their money set aside so they can pay. What obtains in other parts of the world, especially in the West, Europe and America, is they live in the houses. They sleep there. At the end of the month, they pay. So when the monthly, the salary comes in, they pay. Now, that means that we're operating what we call a credit system, just like we have credit cards in that part of the world, where people get the credit card and then they can just go and shop, and at the end of the month they pay with some sort of interest. Now, we have a lot of uncertainty in the economy. People are in jobs and businesses, and they don't know if they are going to make the expected income at the end of the month. So it'll be, if we're using that system where at the end of the month you now pay something, it'll be like having a credit card system in Nigeria. And we're not just, that kind of life is not good. You understand? Over there, they know how they do. Here, that kind of life is not good. Imagine people living on credit cards. How many people are able to pay the loans to take from these online loan companies?
But that's not the case. But that's not the case here. How many people are able to pay? I mean, that's why I'm saying that.
I'm perceiving that the amount of people being kicked out of houses will increase if we get into a monthly rental system, okay? And that monthly rental system is pay after you use. It'll be a problem. This yearly thing, and then secondly, the price is going to shoot up. This yearly thing forces us to plan.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it really feels very good that we probably might just be on the same page. We're saying one and the same thing.
You buy me some lunch after now. but the market prices will come down. Let the houses remain empty. Yeah, let them remain empty.
I don't know how that would pan out for us, but fingers are very crossed. I think that it's a brilliant idea. But when we want to copy, we're not copying the original. So we just get a copy. We don't look at, so you could say that you are dressed in a certain way. I need to understand why you're dressed in a certain way, your body structure and every other thing. We're not considering all of that before we copy. Okay, moving away from that quickly, let's look at the issue of Mason Greenwood, who is a superstar with the Manchester United. He's a fantastic player.
Your football club, by the way.
No, that's not my football club.
You are a Manchester United fan. Mercy,
really?
You told me yesterday. You said to me, why are you denying your club? Oh, and Peter denied Jesus.
That's not it. But you remember a time when you said I support Liverpool. I mean, I have a thing for Liverpool, whatever the case might be. It could probably be with Mo Salah. But however, I do support that club. So this is really, really sad. Mason Greenwood faces consequence of rape allegation. And some people say, oh, the woman doesn't really love this man. And the story is endless. So I have actually been very speechless about this particular situation. But I see a young man who's very fantastic. I mean, I'm friends with Man United, if you want to say.
Bias, no.
I'm not biased.
He's
a fantastic,
broken, right?
and he looks very cute.
You were
That's
heartbroken
also another
to see
issue.
your player.
It's not my player, but a player that has a lot of potential. I really don't know if it will have any impact on his career moving forward. But the laws, and you look at the climbs, right? If you were to be in Nigeria, we don't know how this would actually pan out, if it would even make the light of day because of the systems and the structure that we have. But moving away from this climb, you understand the other climb and how things actually work. I just think that, you can get any woman. You don't need to be very forceful.
Yes, indeed. It's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate for such a career of that started, 19 years old, 18. This is 2022. So about 18 years old, thereabout to 19, you get to be playing week in, week out for one of the biggest clubs in the world. I think that'll make you happy. As I said that.
But that's not my club.
Manchester United. And it's an opportunity that not many people get. And if I want to go back to what do you call it? Last year, I think a year or two ago, the last World Cup or so, one of the Mason Greenwood and the young man from Manchester City, I'm trying to remember his name now. They were sent off from the England camp. I think they broke some rules and they went out partying or something like that, and they sent them home from the England camp. Now, the young chap who plays for Man City was invited back to the team, but Greenwood wasn't invited back to the team. And the English coach, Southgate, was asked why he had not been calling Greenwood, but he called the Man City youngster. I'm trying to remember his name. And he said he wants Greenwood to develop and progress and all that. But looking at what's happened now, it's clear that probably those in the England camp had, Foden is his name, yeah. Thank you, producers. It's clear that they may have seen something about the young man and his attitude, because, I mean, there's no reason why Southgate should invite Foden to the Euros that was hosted by England, take Saka to the Euros, and then not take Greenwood, who was scoring fantastically for England. And there were some players who were taken for Manchester United, players who were taken who were not doing as well as Foden, as Greenwood, So that first episode, you want to link it to this one. It's clear that the young man is a troubled young man, and it's really sad, really, really sad. But a message has to be passed, that this kind of attitude and behavior is not acceptable. There were videos emanating on social media of a audio recording that was done when he was shouting at his girlfriend, his lady friend. He was trying to force her, into a sexual activity.
I just also feel very sad.
It wasn't really like, and one mother I saw who put out a statement said her son, he's a footballer, and she doesn't want the son to learn from this. We have to go and move on to our next segment. Mercy.
Well, Greenwood has actually been dropped from the FIFA 2022 game. I mean, all of that active live game. He's no longer going to be there. Very sad. But that's the much we can take on Top Trending. When we return, we head straight to looking at the papers this morning and analyzing the big stories on the front pages of our national dailies. Please stay with us.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Niger, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
So watching The Breakfast on PlusTvAfrica, and now time to dive into the details, the headlines from the nation's national dailies. Some very interesting and juicy stories on offer today. I'd like to, at this point, welcome our guest analyst. He's a legal practitioner, Tunde Kolawole. Good morning to you, Mr. Kolawole. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. And let's get straight to the first paper. We're starting with The Punch, a newspaper, and some interesting headlines there. The lead story, marketers labor warn as FG pushes refineries repairs to Buhari's successor. Quite a surprise on page 2. The following riders: no subsidy removal until refineries are working under next government. Silver: without repairing refineries, fuel price hike imminent, says marketers fault policies. At the top of the front page of the Punch newspaper, 6.6 million Nigerians become MTN shareholders. Telco rakes in 111.75 billion naira. Details on page 19. Buhari mandates Gambari, Ngige, Adamu to resolve ASU crisis, begs lecturers. We're still there. We have not moved. Details on page 9. Wike dodges questions on presidential ambition, says window still open. Page 12. Those who know the man, I've studied him for about 7 years. Don't take too much from what he's saying right now. Oil revenue plunges as Nigeria misses January OPEC quota. That's quite unfortunate. SACA, that's the National Agency for the Control of AIDS. At the bottom of that front page, Prof awarded SAN at 90, dies at UCH at 91. May soul rest in peace. Kaduna lists 1,192 killed in 2021. El Rufai insists terrorists must die. Obasanjo fumes over fire in Benue farm. Otom orders probe. Obasanjo fumes over fire in Benue farm. Otom orders probe. Reps recommend 390 million naira compensation for customs killings in Oyo, Katsina. There we go again. Kidnap epidemic. Gunmen abduct ex-LG chair. 4 others in Ekiti. And U.S. resumes no interview process for Nigerians seeking visa renewal. Those are headlines on the front page of The Punch.
All right, let's move away from the Punch newspaper this morning and take a quick look at the Daily Independent. The banner caption says, Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2022 resist pressure, give assent. PDP NAS caucus tells Buhari and asks party to avoid imposition of candidates in 2023. Slams APC for allegedly failing Nigerians. These are riders underneath the bold caption. Away from that, you also have bandits killed 1,192 and kidnapped 3,348 in Kaduna in 2021. This is according to the government. 2023 presidential elections, Atiku in Mina meets Ibrahim Babangida Badamasi. Thugs vandalize Atiku campaign office and burn PDP secretariat in Gombe. These are also some of the headlines you find this morning. PDP elders ask Emmanuel not to plunge party into crisis. IU-led National Working Committee to meet governors. Only antiviral drugs will end COVID-19, not vaccines. This is according to the WHO. Don't you find this very interesting and intriguing? So we probably might just be moving away from the issue of vaccines and getting to antiviral drugs. And we will honor agreement with ASU. Buhari assures asks union to be consistent of federal government physical pressure. Completion of Lekki Port final solution to Apapa gridlock. This is what the
P ticket and rider Clark, Buhari's successor, should come from South. And yesterday we saw some story about Wike and a couple of other governors in the PDP from the South going against Atiku and I think it was Tambuwal over this presidency issue. Would ask, I guess, whether that to plunge the party into a sort of internal crisis. Still with the Nation newspaper, U.S. begins no visa interview for renewal for Nigerians. That is, U.S. begins no interview visa renewal in Nigeria. Sorry about that. How to end banditry killings by El Rufai. How to end banditry killings by El Rufai. 1,192 killed, 3,348 kidnapped in Kaduna last year. Insurgents killed 3 soldiers, 8 others in Niger. Forex turnover at official window dropped from $4.44 billion to $2.18 billion. Naira appreciates 415 to the dollar at the official market. And gunmen kidnapped 10 farmers in Ondo, 5 in Ekiti. At the bottom of that front page, Otom orders probe into Obasanjo farm fire and attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau. Those are stories coming on the front page of The Nation.
All right, let's also look at the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And the page on the Nigerian Tribune, bold caption says, Clark to Atiku and Saraki, Tambuwal, don't run. North has ruled for 45 out of Nigeria's 61 years of independence. I mean, this is actually the premise that this is put out. He says, I will make my intention known soon. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is quoted on that. You have all of that on the Nigerian Tribune this morning as a bold caption. You also have cool fever spreads to Guinea-Bissau as gunfire erupts near Presidential Palace. Reps asked Customs to pay 390 million naira compensation to victims in Oyo and Katsina State. Banditry, 1,192 people killed in Kaduna in 2021. This is according to reports. Insurgency, Borno government declares 100,000 persons missing. Gunmen abduct farmer owner and workers in Ondo. I will honor agreement with ASU. This is according to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. And ritual killings, IFA doesn't support use of human parts for wealth. Traditional worshippers are quoted on that particular one. Let's just quickly take one or two headlines before we move away. Ambode breaks silence and seeks active youth participation in politics. And that's it this morning on the Nigerian Tribune. Well, let's just head straight to having Tunde Kolawole share his thoughts this morning on some of the big stories. It's good to have you join us, Tunde Kolawole.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so which of the headlines interest you? Let's put it out that way.
Yeah, honestly speaking, when you look at all the stories that are on the front page, the back pages, and even inside of all the papers that you have read today, you will agree with me that we are about to see the end of the dark tunnel and then emerge into a new Nigeria. But with that as it may, the story with regards to ritual killing kind of agitates my mind. Why do I say this? A few days ago, a 15-year-old boy, a 15-year-old boy, and a 17-year-old boy were arrested by the police. They were seen to have lured a teenager like themselves somewhere, decapitated the head, and they were going to use it for ritual money-making purposes. So all over the country, wherever you go today, is either our children are engaged in ritual killing for making money purposes, or they are engaged in Yahoo, or they are engaged in armed robbery, or they are engaged in banditry, and all manners of criminality. And this speaks volume for us as our people, because we say the children and the youth are supposed to be the future of the country. So if we are producing this kind of killing at this stage in our life, in our country's history, what is going to be our hope? What is going to be our future as a nation? And in a way, you wouldn't blame those children through reality and rent from ordinary poor Nigerian people and then from the oil sector. Such that no Nigerian airlines want to work again. All they want to do is to collect rent and then levies and charges to make a good living. And the children are watching all of this. Those who are not engaged in all that, they go into politics and the public sector and then begin to steal money. A few days ago, the newly elected governor, Soludo, that most of the people that we will find in politics today are drug barons and ritual killers and cultists and all that. So, if the elders are behaving in such a manner, you will not expect the children to behave in a different manner. So we really need something decisive in this area to let the children know that there is no ritual killing or ritual or whatever that you can do that will make you as rich as Aliko Dangote, that will make you as rich as Rabiu, the Buaman, or Bill Gates. So the nation is at a crossroads. Parents have also failed in their responsibility in the upbringing of these children. Most times we don't ask our children where they go to whatever shoe, whatever clothes, or whatever phone that they are using. In fact, children now, and the parents now buy laptop for their children and ask them to go and learn how to do Yahoo. There was a time that mothers formed Yahoo Mothers Association and approached the chairman of EFCC to release their children that they were doing illegitimate business. So all this saddens my heart. I feel depressed when I hear these stories of ritual killing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Kolawole, let's look at the headline from the Punch newspaper. Of course, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timi Silva, was on TV, and he talked about the fact that the successor to President Buhari will have to complete the repairs of the nation's refineries. Nigeria has 4 refineries, and we're hearing that Labour and the marketers are warning that this will push the price of PMS up. Especially with the increase, because the government is saying they can't complete the refineries repair and renovation on time before they leave.
Well, I support the position of Labour. In fact, I was already preparing for the demonstrations and protests that Labour said they were going to embark upon with regards to the increases in fuel prices on which it was corrupt. You hardly can fault the position of Labour with regards to the position that they have taken in the petroleum sector, the petroleum industry, our petroleum sector, whatever. That doesn't happen in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't happen in Qatar. And most of so why would we not be able to run our own that is less than 50, 30 years old? It beats my imagination. The truth of the matter is that when Nigerian airlines are preparing for election, when Nigerian airlines have some jamboree programs to embark upon and all that, it is the oil sector that they go and beat their sexy hands to finance most of these projects. Imagine the contract that has been awarded by the present regime. You are leaving in 2023 and you are awarding contract for turnaround maintenance of the refinery to be completed in 6 years' time. Why don't you leave that contract to the incoming government? For me, something is fishy in that. Even the size of most of the refineries you find in some other places, that they complete the turnaround maintenance in 3 months. Imagine if Dangote refinery comes on stream and then the plant has a problem. Will Dangote have to wait for 6 years to do the maintenance and the turnaround? That will not happen because he's a businessman. He knows the implications. A refinery is maintained on a daily basis. He doesn't have to break down totally before you say you are doing the turnaround. But you see, when the airlines want food rent and then they want to enrich their political party, their families and all that, that is when you see them award a contract for maintenance of those refineries. Okay. More importantly, too, from what we have seen over the years now, it has become apparent that government has no business running any of these refineries again. They will never run it well. So we probably would have to encourage more of Aliko Dangote to establish refineries, because the more you have, according to the laws of economics, the cheaper it probably will become. Okay, because it is market forces that will determine what you get in that area.
Yes, please, sorry to interrupt you, but are we not getting ahead of ourselves? And is Labour and the marketers who themselves are also part of Labour, because they go on strike once in a while? Are we not going too far and probably blowing hot air? The issues, the concerns raised by Labour over the increase in the price of the fuel. When the subsidy is removed, because the federal government has pushed the removal of subsidy to the next government, or they're saying they won't remove the subsidy until this rehabilitation is completed. And we've seen that the contracts were awarded to Technimont SPA in March 2021 last year. And it was made clear when these contracts were awarded and approved, rather, by the Federal Executive Council, that the rehabilitation, as Timi Silva calls it, was going to take 3 phases. He said 18 months, 24 months and 44 months. And so this was expected. There's nothing we can do about it. Better late than never. And he's also said before now, last year, that the renovation, rehabilitation would see, for instance, the 2 refineries in Port Harcourt producing at 60% capacity. So we'll see production coming in at the end by September, if you calculate 18 months from March last year, September, October, at least by the end of 2022, we should see the Port Harcourt refinery producing at 60% capacity. So shouldn't we be optimistic rather?
Check your records. There has never been any government that we have had since 1999. That is the return to this civil rule. That has not done one turnaround maintenance or the other on all those refineries. And at the end of their turning around, have we getting any value for our money? Are those refineries producing more or better or at optimum capacity? The answer is lies. You know, they're just looking for money to finance the next election. That's why they have awarded that jumbo contract. With regard to subsidy, like I've always said, this may sound very unpopular, but it's a position I have arrived at. If they say they want to remove the subsidy, let them remove it. Subsidy issue has always been the lie that the Nigerian airlines have been telling us for their inability to run the country efficiently, smoothly, and diligently. So if they remove this so-called phantom subsidy and other, let's now see what other lies they will be telling for being unable to deliver the dividend of democracy, for being able to provide infrastructure, for being able to make our schools the way those schools should be, for being able to provide the good facilities and all that. Is it not a piece of irony that the government, when campaigning in 2015, and then the previous one, that said there is no subsidy on petroleum products, to now come and start saying they will remove subsidy? Is it not ironical that a government has said we have no business increasing the pump price of petroleum products, that has now increased the pump price of petroleum products about 2-3 times within the last 7 years that they have been in power? I don't buy into the argument. I still maintain my position that I support whatever steps Labour takes with regards to this. They know that the airlines are merely trying to pull wool over the eyes of the Nigerian people.
Okay, so let's also look at another issue on the Nigerian. This is in the premise that he said that out of the 61 years of the rulership of governance in Nigeria, I mean, of Nigeria being an entity, 45 years or thereabout, you have the North actually rule. And he's saying that, naturally, nobody from the North should consider declaring their intention of wanting to contest for president.
Well, the story sent to me by Funke, I have read it. And when I read the Chief Clark's position, I chuckled to myself. Why did I chuckle? That position seems to be like swimming against the current. And when you swim against the current, you know it can be catastrophic. Because when you swim against the constitutional guarantee to contest whatever election that they want to contest, be it presidency or the governor. So if anybody comes out and says certain persons should be disqualified or should stay away from contesting the presidential election, that person will be running against the current of the Constitution, which I don't think should be encouraged. The second one is that I have always said that the Yoruba, the Hausa, the Fulani, the Igbos have always spoken very arrogantly with regard to the president rising in power. Does it mean that the other languages in Nigeria are not entitled to the presidency of Nigeria, are not entitled to the governorship, are not entitled to local government chairman? This is mark of arrogance. So when people start saying it is our turn, it should be the turn of the John, the turn of the Ethiopia, the turn of Ogoni people. I don't subscribe to that kind of a thing. In fact, what they do is spitting on the face of other Nigerian tribes who are equally entitled to the presidency of Nigeria. Furthermore, we must also realize that a nation that seeks to develop must always, who will be able to deliver a region, they first serve themselves, they serve their family, and then they begin to serve their friends, and then the people in their respective political parties. What difference did Obasanjo make in the life of the Yoruba people? What difference did the Goodluck Jonathan make in the life of the Ijaw people? What difference is Buhari making in the life of the Hausa Fulani people? The northern part of the country has been turned to a battlefield, into a war zone, and bloodletting and banditry on a daily basis. For me, let's put our best foot forward. I am not saying that there are no qualified people
Tunde Kolawole.
from some of these minority tribes.
Tunde Kolawole, let's also look at it from this angle now. The issue that Edwin Clark has actually raised in a subtle way is the issue of zoning. And the zoning, as we already know in the Nigerian polity, as a lot of people would describe it, has been a gentleman agreement that does not have its place in the Constitution. However, this is what it is. 45 out of 61 years, you have the dominance of a certain region. Are you saying that you're not in support of, the zoning system or the politics of zoning that's been going on?
The zoning system is a gentleman's agreement. It is not backed up by the Constitution or the Electoral Act. So if any citizen decides not to abide by the zoning arrangement and all that, there is nothing that you can do about that. Absolutely nothing. Because zoning is a gentlemanly agreement.
But the phrase here, I'm sorry to interject. I'm sorry to interject. The issue of agreement is very strong. Agreement is some kind of, negotiation that two or more persons come into, they agree. It's called agreement.
Yeah.
And so over time, if you have every other person playing by the rule and, playing to this agreement and playing to the gallery, what happens when it becomes the turn of another person? Do you think it's fair? Let's look at morality now in this case. Of course, morality is not law.
Well, it might not be fair, but it's important that we have a global perspective of the direction in which we want to take Nigeria to as a nation. And when you are talking about an agreement, we have in law what we call honor agreement, which is to say it is not binding. It is mere custom. It's mere a gentlemanly agreement between two people. If we institutionalize this zoning thing, the dangers are that we might not be putting our best foot forward as a nation. We might not be having the best hand to run our country as a people. And where the best of the hand is not running your country as a people, it will be difficult to break through and develop. But like I said, I know that there is no part of this country that you go to that you won't find capable hands. But don't let us elevate this zoning and regional or tribal thing to a constitutional level, in which when good hands now come on board or throw their hearts into the ring, then we will shut them out because there is a zoning arrangement. And then with people like Edwin Clark too, he was one of the closest advisors of Dr. Goodluck Jonathan when he was there. If Dr. Goodluck Jonathan's government hadn't done well, like most people want to say or see, then what is the quality of advice that you get from people like Edwin Clark? These are inspired, tired old men who don't have a plan and who don't have a long view of history. They are not digital, so to say. So I would still prefer that we talk about the best of our hands, the most educated. It is primitive in the 21st century to say that you begin rotation and then you will begin tribal and regional politics.
Mr. Kolawole, thank you.
It doesn't move the
yes,
forward.
we have to move on, but I'm sure Edwin Clark would have a response to you if he hears me described as a tired old man. Maybe he would say he's just simply defending the fairness in terms of the regionalism and the ethnopolitics of Nigeria. But let's move on to the front page of the Punch newspaper. They've told us about President Buhari's statement where he's mandated Gambari, Ngige and Adamo to resolve the ASU crisis, begs lecturer. That's what the headline says. Buhari mandates Gambari, Ngige, Adamo to resolve ASU. They're doing to see how they can also resolve or have an influence in resolving the issue. So those are one of the things they laid on the table when they visited the president. And he said that the NIREC should tell the lecturers that the president or the federal government holds them in very high regard. That's what he says. So what are your thoughts on this?
It's shocking to me that Mr. President will be making that kind of a statement. I don't know how long you have been to some of these Nigerian universities, colleges of education and polytechnics. I was, one of my children attended my alma mater, which is the University of Ibadan. And initially, he was going to stay in the hostel, and the rooms in which there were two of us, when I was there, I find 11 people who are occupying those rooms. Those children were also cooking in the room. Some have electric oven, some have stove, some all manners of gadgets to do the cooking. When I entered the room was like an oven. And because of that, I don't see any meaningful study that any child can do in that kind of environment. And so the boy had to team up with two of his friends to go and rent a 3-bedroom flat outside the University at the campus to be able to live a comfortable life and then be able to face his studies. Also, when I took a tour of the zoological garden of the University of Ibadan and also the laboratories that we have in the University of India, all of them were empty. And you can say the same for all the universities and polytechnics that we have all over the country. And that is the reason in so many parts of the world now, certificates from the federal government and state universities are no longer being recognized, not just for admission, but also for work. Most employers of labor today also prefer to hire people who are coming from the private university because most of our universities no longer have the equipment, the teacher, the libraries to be able to teach these children what ordinarily they should be taught. So the solution would have been for us to cut our costs in some other areas, like in the area of politics. Look at the amount of money we are spending on politics. Look at the billion that will go into the coming election. Look at the salaries of the executive arm of government, of the legislator. See how much we are spending on them. Can't we have the unicameral just one National Assembly?
So Mr.
Can't we
Kolawole,
have a part-time sitting arrangement?
So Mr. Kolawole,
at the National Assembly and the state level?
This point you're making, sir, it kind of dovetails into what also, in a way, the president is saying. He told them, that he appealed through NIREC to ASU to be cognizant of the fiscal pressures that the government was currently facing. In other words, a paucity of funds. We don't have too much money, to spare. So just, take that into account. And the fact that he says, the government remains committed, to preventing strikes, to, honoring its agreement with ASU. But what do you make of the fact the president is complaining about fiscal pressures, and ASU should be aware of that and take cognizance of that? But he's also taking a visit by this group, these spiritual leaders, for the president to put together a committee, maybe sort of like a reaction. What's your take on that?
The ASU people should not accept to be pegged for any reason whatsoever. Because like I said, when you look at the money, know that there is money. That is just the cost. We are refused to curb corruption, excesses, indolence, and put the right technology in the right places to cut down costs. That is why we are saying we have no money to fund the education. If countries like US, like Britain, and what have you, are able to fund their education, because the new education is the bedrock of development.
Sorry.
And not democracy.
So I think it's okay if you actually take water or something.
Sorry about that.
Just take a break.
Yes. Interesting analysis from Kolawole. It's you're saying as federal government we have a paucity of funds, and we have fiscal challenges, but government spending is still up there. You know, and he's made a fantastic point. If you say there's no money or we're struggling with finances, and ASU should also remember that, what can you cut down? You know, how can we, plug the leakages and the holes and try and reduce government spending? You know, he's made a fantastic point. You know, recurrent expenditure pretty high, as far as the budget is concerned. But Mr. Kolo, are you there still?
Hello?
Yeah, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we can proceed with some more stories from the papers, and I hope you're okay. Another one yes. Okay, thank you. Another one that caught our attention is one on the front page of the Daily Independent, where it has this headline: PDP elders ask Emmanuel not to plunge the party into crisis. Iyorchia Ayu-led National Working Committee to meet with governor. Now, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the commissioner in Akwa Ibom State, commissioner for lands. He's commissioner for lands and water resources. His name is Umo Eno. He happens to be a cleric or a pastor who is in the cabinet, kneeling down before Governor Dom Emmanuel. It seems to be getting the party upset that the governor said, this is who I want to succeed me. This is my anointed candidate. I mean, is the governor not as an individual allowed to say, oh, I support this person?
It is totally wrong. It is the electorate that should decide who should succeed whatever governor is the leading power. But you and I will remember that people Governor Emmanuel too is a beneficiary of the sectoral plan of his own predecessor. The reason why this is so is not far-fetched. Most people living power, especially governors, usually have so much skeletons in their cupboard that they cannot afford to allow just anybody to take over from them. So they usually shop around for millions, for yes boys, for people they can dictate to, who will be able to cover up their skeleton. That is why you find the governors and the president are always shopping for their successor. But in an ideal society, in an ideal environment, that is not what should happen. Whoever is interested in any of these positions, he just throw his hat into the ring. If he wins the primary, get the flag of his party, then he begins to contest election. And if he wins, he loses. But I doubt it whether the present crop of leaders that we have will ever allow such things to happen in Nigeria. And that is why you find out all the parties, not just in Akwa Ibom, almost all over the state now, are in crisis. Look at what has become of the PDP primaries in Ekiti State. Look at what has happened at the APC primaries in the state. They went and doctored the whole thing, and it is the person that one party leader, one government wants as successor that have won the primaries of all those parties. And that is tearing all the parties apart. It's a thing that we should be encouraging. And I think the Nigerian the Nigerian people, especially the electorate, can begin to teach these people a lesson in that area. Once we see that it is on millions that the outgoing governor have chosen, let's vote against them. After all, there are more than 100 political parties in Nigeria who might be having flag bearers in all the governorship elections.
Well, thank you so much, Barrister Tunde Kolawole. We really do appreciate your time with us this morning, and we look forward to sharing more of your thoughts on some national issues.
Thank you for having me.
It's all right, and we hope that
Sorry for my croaky voice this morning.
No, that's okay. We think that you should take a cup of warm water. That will probably just
I will.
All right. Well, that's the much we can
actually
take.
Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you so much.
I've been watching all the beautiful jobs these people have been doing.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate you as well. Well, that's the much we can take on the papers this morning. Very intense. We will definitely come back with the paper review tomorrow. But in the meantime, let's tell you what happened today in the history. And when we come, we will head straight to our first major conversation. We'll be looking at the militarization in the region, of course, Africa and West Africa as a whole.
Thank you for joining.
Welcome back. It's still The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa, and now to our first major conversation. The president of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, has said many members of the country's security forces have been left dead after an attempted coup d'etat in the West African nation. Yesterday, reports emerged of gunfire near a government building in the capital, Bissau, where the president was reportedly attending. Could have been related to people involved in drug trafficking, but he gave no further details. While Mr. Embalo won the December 2019 presidential election, he faced a last-minute standoff with Parliament before taking office the following February. Now let's look at the return of military rule to some West African countries, and of course let's also look at the implications for the stability on the continent. I want to welcome Mr. Paul Ejime, our guest on the breakfast this morning. He's an independent consultant on strategic corporate communications, peace and security in elections. Mr. Ejime, good morning to you and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kofi. Thank you for having me.
How did you feel when you first saw the news of gunfire in Bissau, the capital of Guinea-Bissau, yesterday?
Well, it's becoming now predictable in West Africa and what you might call contagion or domino effect. It was there in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and then you were asking which country next or which president next. And that is because of the erosion of democracy. President Ampalo is talking about attack on democracy, but it is the African leaders, in fact, some people call them rulers, that have attacked democracy. And then the military is just, because they have the guns, that is why theirs appears to be very pronounced. But otherwise, you will agree with me that when you organize a flawed election, or you take power, or want to, elongate your tenure by changing the constitution and not delivering on, and you cannot protect your people, their lives and property, there is no benefit of democracy. You are also attacking democracy. And I think it is these political rulers or leaders have brought this on themselves. Unfortunately, it's the common people, common man, you call them, common woman, that is the victim. Here was a man whose election, by the way, still under legal challenge at the ECOWAS Community Court, because his opponents allege that, and that is true, that he was sworn in when the Supreme Court had not certified his election. And so they said it was a coup. And this has snowballed now into what is happening today. And then look at the bloodshed. It's very bloody from what is mentioned. And that is not good, even though the country is known for instability, about 9 coups since independence from Portugal in 1974. He is also a former prime minister, army general, 49, by the way. So you will expect that he will do better. But here we are, déjà vu. The same thing the French will say. The more things change, the more they remain the same. But African leaders, and will have to check it, particularly in West Africa, about how do they deliver. Perhaps they need to, ECOWAS is just stumbling about in the way it's handling this suspension, sanctions, yes. But if you don't follow, if you don't look at these instruments that is there for you to use, like early warning system, this was there in coming since 2019 or 2020, that this has lingered. He talked about drug. Yes, drug is an issue. But one cannot even know, will not know, whether this was not organized to eliminate opponents. And so that is what we have in Africa. All very many questions, but few answers. So that is what we have. And so ECOWAS will have to go back to the drawing board. The leadership has taken condemnation, power and ambition. So I think there has to be some reality check. Otherwise, you will say who is going to fall next.
Okay, so let's also, I'd like us to, I know that in the course of this conversation you have mentioned 1 or 2 issues, but let's look at what could be the reason for this failed attempt in Guinea-Bissau. I mean, for the case of Burkina Faso, you would also want to agree with me that the issue of government failure to stabilize, or the issue of the attacks of the jihadists at the time led to all of that. And you feel like the people are already accepting Guinea-Bissau?
Well, it is just, in fact, when was it? Was it last year, 2020, 2021? there was the military had to arrest some people over a plot that failed plot. So it is not unusual in Guinea-Bissau. And then you ask, what is a country of 1.9 or 1.6 million people, but has never known peace? I think only one president has served a complete term. That tells you a lot. And you have generals, and now you ask, if they were there, like they are in the Gambia, probably this would not have happened. But I think it's about ego. He thought he could do it. He could ride the weather, the rough weather. It's not easy to govern when you are not obeying the rule. Like I said, his election is still in dispute. And in fact, they said yesterday that this attempt happened. ECOWAS court was hearing the case, and they have adjourned it. And so for somebody who has that legitimacy problem, you would think that he will, tread softly or be magnanimous, walk until issues are... It is not clear, like I said, it's still opaque to know whether this was not an attempt to eliminate opponents, or was it a genuine frustration by those who think that he's not doing... it's about governance. Whoever is there today in Guinea-Bissau, but is across the region, whether it is Lusophone or Anglophone or Francophone, it is there. If you do not deliver, if you don't give the people the benefit of democracy, there will be disaffection, there will be anger. And if you add the anger to hunger and then insecurity, what do you have? And that is what is playing out in the whole of Sahel and West Africa, without exception. So the leaders or the rulers, they have themselves to blame. And unless they check this flagrant violation of the Constitution or electoral framework and codes, they will continue to have this type of assault on democracy. So it is actually the rulers that are the ones that are assaulting democracy. The military, because they have the coercive instruments, the coercive power, the weapon, that is when everybody starts shouting. But when a leader changes the constitution, like it has happened in Guinea, it has happened in Côte d'Ivoire, when they do that, or they lock up their opponents, or they fail to address insecurity, that is what happened in Mali. The president then couldn't address the insecurity that has been there for a very long time. In Guinea, I've said that the president there changed the constitution. And then Burkina Faso, it is because Kabore there, the president, has not been able to rein in these terrorists and jihadist groups, which he promised to do. So this is it's across. If you go to come down, even in Ghana, Ghana recently was now deploying troops along its border with Burkina Faso because of these jihadis. They are there working. ECOWAS has what you call the early warning, and then it works with civil society to produce reports, daily reports, monthly, that has been warning against this type of, the movement and then dangerous activities of these terrorists and jihadists. But ECOWAS has refused to use that instrument to do what you call preventive diplomacy. You don't wait. You don't wait. Once a fire has, has taken off, that is not when you begin to fight it. You have to prevent it. Bring your fire extinguisher ready. Understand how to put out fire. But not because once the fire is there, you don't know how long and how far it will go. This fire is the ECOWAS region used to be known as the Cool Belt. And I think that inglorious past is now being reenacted, which is very unfortunate. Let there be, I think everybody now, let ECOWAS used to have, let them bring all those instruments for the conflict management and prevention. And then, how to manage crisis, beginning from the country, from local, national level, and then you bring it, escalate it to the regional level.
Okay.
And make sure that you carry the people along.
Okay.
And the people too, the electorate, is also a referendum on them. Are they choosing the right people that will govern them? If they are not, let them take power back from these commissioned agents. These people, in the case of former French colonies, 3 of them among these ones, France also has a dubious role. It has its military base. It is controlling the economy of these countries through the currency, and then is exploiting their resources. But it's because of the acquiescence, complicity of the African leaders. They have to come clean and govern. Let them show respect for constitution, for rule of law, and then for those things. Deliver on the basics of democracy. They are not doing that.
Okay, Mr. Jimmy. Yes, just to follow up on your question about France. It's interesting you went there. Very, very great analysis, because a lot of people are using this as an opportunity to have a conversation or a debate about the role of France, on the African continent. And of course, they are one of the major colonizers of African countries, still with great influence in these African countries. Suspicion that they're still collecting tax or whatever back to Paris. But are we not over, flogging the issue with France? Putting too much blame on France when these countries are democracies who they elect their presidents. You have a certain Blair Compaoré in Burkina Faso who became basically a dictator. I mean, it was just a matter of time. People were not sure when he was going to leave. You have in Ivory Coast, you talked about Ouattara. Also, I mean, he was brought in, and someone was chased out, Laurent Gbagbo, and now he wants to remain there perpetually, for instance. Are we not blaming France too much? Because yesterday or last week or this week, France was able to conduct an operation in the northern part of Burkina Faso, and they killed a lot of terrorists. We know how the role France has played in Mali, first of all against the Tuareg rebels, and then after the Tuareg rebels had to run to hide because of the jihadists. They've also been combating the jihadists as well, giving the Malian government a lot of support. Are we not blaming France for too much with the current spate of coups in West Africa?
Now, let us unpack it, and then because we can easily confuse issues. One is that there are, local issues with, the domestic governance system that is not working. That is one. Then the other one is external influence. You cannot rule that out, particularly with former French colonies. When you have, they appear to have been given political independence without economic independence. Some of them are now using the CFA francs, a currency that is domiciled in the controlled by the French treasury. When I have your money, it's like when I give you anything, I'm controlling what you are doing. And then you talk about this issue of fighting terrorism. France went to Mali in 2013, with under the trying to support, to help. Okay, they've been there for how many years now? But until today, plus another 15,000 EU troops or forces. Meanwhile, the government in Bamako cannot control things that are happening in northern Mali. But France can do that. And northern Mali, will you refuse a country from choosing whoever he wants to do any business, be it on defense, on economy, and all that. So because France is against that, ECOWAS is also joining. And that is part of the problem that ECOWAS now has done for itself. Not being independent, not being seen to be independent. It appears that some of the decisions are being, dictated from Paris. And that is dangerous. People are asking, is this the same ECOWAS people used to know? So France We cannot, like you said, overflog it. After 60 years of independence, African leaders must now be independent and show that they are independent. But it's not showing. It is in name, it's in so many places, because they are collaborating with foreign forces to loot their own country, to undermine their own citizens, undermine their own country because of selfish interest. And that is our ambition. If they want to stay, they will get support, military support from France. For instance, in Chad, Chad is in Central Africa. But there, Idris Deby was killed. He was a general that was elected. But you know what happened? It was his son that took power. When the Constitution had talked about the Speaker of Parliament taking over, French President was the only head of state that went to the inauguration of Idris Deby's son, Muhammad. And so you see the contradiction. Here you are talking, bringing, fire and brimstone on Mali and other military, but a military boy has also taken power in succeeding his father. That is not democracy. So there is that contradiction all over in the French policy, and then that allows them to continue. But I agree with you that it is when the people in Africa, when Africans accept this kind of meddling or interference, that is when it will work. But otherwise, if they had come together to say, listen, you get out of this space, leave us to manage our affairs, be it security, be it economy. But some of these countries are not are so fragile and capable of doing it. So they need leaders that are visionary, leaders that can sacrifice, leaders that are patriotic, to be able to remove all these external forces. But it is going to be tough, because if you remember that if they come, they are afraid that they can be killed. But if you are leading in Africa and you are really a true leader, you must be ready to even sacrifice your life because of your people. This crop of leaders that we have today, they are not that type. They are, they worry about themselves, their family, and then their wealth, which they also now try to warehouse in foreign countries, in France and other foreign capitals. And that is why it is difficult for them to act factors that is causing problem there. Generals are, yes, selling, trafficking in drugs, and there is poverty, there is unemployment, and disaffection.
So some people have argued that the current trend is yet different from what we experienced in the 70s and the 80s in terms of the coups that we're experiencing in Africa as a whole. I mean, if you want to even look at the statistics now with the recent happening. Now, others are also arguing that, questioning the role of the African Union in all of this, that the African Union and other organizations just fold their arms and wait for this coups to actually happen before they begin to express their concern. But like you have mentioned, that governance has always been a major issue. So, the governance of, democratic dispensation in all these African countries where you have leaders elected and there are corrupt practices and unconstitutional behaviors, which has warranted, the military takeover, which, of course, you would also agree that, the military government can never be, the best form of governance, no matter the worst form of democracy. So the other question would not be, what would be the best form, that Africans need to begin to generate conversation to deepen their democracy? So it's all-encompassing question. The trend that we're experiencing, which is almost different from what we experienced during, the 70s and the 80s in terms of coup, and the role of the African Union in all of this. And what is the way forward? How do we deepen our democracy? Because this is the issue of deficits, the weakness in our democracy that constantly, give rise to the need for military governance.
Mercy, I hope you are not a lecturer, because you are asking me to do a thesis analysis. I hope I have the time. Well, times and circumstances will be different. What we had in the past may not, but you would say that perhaps if we have managed to, practice these democratic principles for the past 20 years, how come we are doing a bad job of it? In those days, remember that some of the countries we had just come out of independence when you had the coups, it was 70 and all that. When independence came in the 60s and also part of the 70s. So, like I said, time and circumstances are different. But the basics are still there. It is about governance. When you do not deliver on what you promised on the basics of the benefits of governance, it will, create unhappiness. It will create this. There is so much that is happening. Then the other thing, I think I also agree with you that perhaps Africa can sit down, the intelligentsia and everybody sit down and talk about the kind of governance system. But like you said too, democracy is preferred because it has the elements that allows you to change government or people, those that are governed, when through the ballot box. But what has happened is that Africans, now the problem is that they have used those principles, holding periodic election, but the elections are flawed in many cases. So the problem might probably not be with democracy, but with the practice, the practitioners, the politicians. What they do, if you go and, democracy does not ask you to go and hire thugs, does not ask you to go and buy votes, does not ask you to change constitution illegally, does not ask you to come too hard on your people, not respect their human rights and the rule of law. So these are the issues. And I think until and unless Africans now come back to begin to deliver, leadership is about service. It is not about being served. And that is the issue. African rulers or leaders want people to serve them. Have you seen some of the motorcades they use? How they move? They live in large. And so there is a disconnect between them and the people they are supposed to serve. And that, whether it was in the past or now, and it is even critical, now you have the digital system. In the past, you will probably take days or months to know what your leader is doing. But now, everything is in the open space. You have the social media with all its negativity, but it shows that you cannot hide anymore. It's like you're in the marketplace. You can't steal anything and hide it behind your back. They will see you. So that is the issue. Let Africans play by the rule. The rule, it is the lack of that commitment to play by the rule, that lack of that, vision, or when you are there, because some of them have also made some gains, some impressive, exemplary. You saw the Zambian man, Magufuli, and here and there, you find them sprinkling. But that is not what is required. There has to be this groundswell, and then, a ground of those who think with democratically, who obey the principles of democracy. Here, it is being obeyed in breach. It is being observed in breach, the principles of democracy. They say we are democratic, but how democratic are we?
Okay.
So it's probably not the system, but the operators.
Mr. Jima, you're saying it's probably not the system, but the operators. Messi, you want to ask a follow-up question? So
yeah, the follow-up question, because I was hoping that he answered. The role of African Union has also been queried in all of this. Yes, we know we had the regional body, which is ECOWAS, but African Union, they have been accused of just standing and watching and not acting until things begin to happen. And some people say their loyalty lies with the government of, these African states.
I mean, that will not be a wrong accusation, because remember that this is an organization that succeeded the Organization of African Unity, which fought for the independence and liberation of Africa. You wonder if these were the people, the kind of organization you had during that colonial struggle, whether these people will be able to liberate Africa. My answer is no. And that is because they are not showing Pan-Africanism. They are not showing that African spirit. They are not showing the zeal to, instead, it becomes a club of old colleagues who pat themselves on the back, drink champagne and all that. Meanwhile, there are instruments to be used. They are not preventing, they're not proactive, they're just there, as if that is not they are not playing their role. Let's face it. They are not, or they are waiting until when a leader changes a constitution illegally. What are you supposed to do? There are instruments that on governance and democracy that the AU has. ECOWAS has its own a supplementary protocol on democracy and good governance. But they are only concentrating on when there is coup. Meanwhile, these instruments have articles in them that talks about what a leader can do and cannot do. But when these leaders breach that protocol, nobody calls them to order. And you are right, whether AU, whether ECOWAS, by the way, ECOWAS is one of the economic, regional economic communities. That's what they call them, REC. And it is supposed to be in your region, you have this type of a micro kind of organization that will now, because AU sitting in Addis Ababa, by the way, where they are in Ethiopia, they've not been able, can you believe that, to stop the fight between the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray. Can you believe that? And that is their headquarters. So you say, if you cannot remove that, whatever, something speck in your eyes, no, you are looking to remove the speck in your brother's eye when you have a log in your own eye. So they have failed. I think that is what, let's face it, they have failed Africans, and they need to reinvent themselves. They need to be rescued, like ECOWAS. ECOWAS used to be very, it prided itself. It had international acclaim as the organization that was very on top of crisis management. Look at Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and even Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah. All of them have had issues. But the leadership of ECOWAS in those days were able to manage it. How come these other ones are not doing the same?
Mr. Juma, talking about the past of the past performance of the African Union, or the OU as it was then known, and ECOWAS. Former presidential aide Reno Mokri put out a tweet. He said, first Mali, then Burkina Faso, now Guinea-Bissau. The spate of coups in West Africa is disturbing. It starts as a trickle and may become a deluge with a domino effect, like you just mentioned, if we do nothing. And he went on to say, I urge West African leaders to do what Obasanjo did. And this is the question, the point I'd like you to comment on. I urge West African leaders to do what Obasanjo did when there was a coup in Sao Tome. Do you remember what Obasanjo did when there was a coup in Sao Tome? And is that a solution? Should that be an option at this point?
It is about leadership. In those days, and that brings the question of Nigeria's role. Now, with all these things happening, I think Nigeria should say Nigeria is not as powerful as it used to be. But remember that whatever happens in the ECOWAS region, Nigeria will take the greatest hit. It has more than half of the population, and it contributes more than 60 to 70% of the budget. So Nigeria should ask the question, pay more attention to what is happening in ECOWAS. Because otherwise, it will, when it fails, if ECOWAS fails, given the sacrifice that Nigeria has made over the years, it will amount to a failure by Nigeria. Forget the problems that we have at home. But imagine how many 200 million people in the other countries coming to compound what we have in Nigeria. Now Nigeria is moving, but when all these other countries become ungovernable, and then you have refugees and displaced people, well, there might probably not be, you won't be able to distinguish between the boundaries. So Nigeria, what did Obasanjo do? Obasanjo, in crisis management, you have what you call the you use soft power and then the hard power, or this carrot and stick approach. But you have to balance them. There's a delicate balance, knowing when to use all those powers, calibrate it in a way that one does not, it doesn't boomerang or become counterproductive. Our passenger will move, and Nigeria has done that.
All right.
Recently.
Mr. Jiba, I'm sorry. I really would love to take your comments on this, but we are out of time and we have to move so that we can. Yes, but it's been fantastic having you. And as usual, your on the spot or your spot on analysis is always appreciated. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Well, that's the much that we can take at this point. Thank you so much, Paul Ejima, for being part of the conversation. And as things constantly unfold in Africa and in West Africa as regards the gun politics, we will definitely bring you up to speed with all of that. The breakfast will return tomorrow. The time is 7 o'clock till 9. In the meantime, if you've missed out on any part of the conversation, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're at PlusTvAfrica, and on YouTube, do subscribe.